Please join me in welcoming Senator Dodd.
Well, thank you very, very much, Pete, for that generous introduction. And let me thank you for the brevity of it as well, too. Sometimes the remarks of introduction are longer than the speech you're going to be giving. Keep eating, by the way. I'm not going to be offended if you're eating. I'll be offended if you walk out of the room, but if you're not, keep eating is fine as well. And to thank you immensely for the invitation to be joining you today for this conference, and to wish you all well in the various meetings you're having over these a few days you gather together. And I gather not only, obviously, many from the Los Angeles area, but people from around the world who are here as well, participating in the very informative efforts that you're engaged in. So I thank you, Pete, again for the introduction. And Dave, it's good to be with you as well. Enjoyed our conversation. Bob Kaiser and others who are part of the team with SMPTE as well. I'm tempted, I mentioned in the introduction that Pete provided one of my favorite introductions ever given of a person in public life and politics. It was given years and years ago. William Howard Taft, for those in the room remember, Taft was the only American citizen ever to have achieved the distinction of being elected President of the United States and also Chief Justice of the United States Supreme Court. And not only were his accomplishments huge, Taft was physically huge. He was about 6'7" or 6'8", weighed well in excess of 300 pounds, and so a giant of a man in every sense of the word, both in terms of his accomplishments as well as his physical stature. There was a black-tie dinner at the Waldorf Astoria honoring Taft back in the 1920s, 30s. And the master of ceremonies was a guy named Chauncey Depew, who was the senator from New York in those days. He was also the president of the New York Central Railroad. No conflict of interest, I'm sure, there between being the senator and the head of the railroad. Anyway, he thought of himself as a very colorful kind of a gadfly and a good wit. So he concluded his introduction of Taft with his very distinguished audience by saying, "It now gives me a great deal of pleasure to introduce you a man who is both pregnant with integrity and pregnant with courage." Well, the crowd roared its approval and gave Taft a standing ovation. He slowly made his way to the podium. He waited for the crowd to be reseated and the noise to subside. And he turned to the audience and he said, "If it is a girl, I shall call her integrity. And if it's a boy, I shall call him courage. But if, as I suspect, it's nothing more than gas, I shall call it Chauncey Depew." So when I hear these glowing introductions here, I often think of old William Howard Taft and Chauncey Depew. Well, as you heard from Pete's introduction, I'm 7 months, 8 months into this job as the CEO and chairman of the Motion Picture Association, following the 38 years of Jack Valenti, who was, of course, an iconic figure in this industry for his years of service, going back to the days almost 100 years ago, after the formation, obviously, of SMPTE in 1916, but in the 1920s, when Will Hayes became the first head of the Motion Picture Association. So we almost overlap in terms of our duration as organizations and associations. And so it's all new in many ways to me as I try to learn as much as I can about this industry and the importance of it, both culturally, economically, and for all the other reasons that this industry plays such an important role, not only here in our own country, but globally as well. It is a global industry. We have offices, obviously, in Washington, you may know about, offices here in the Pacific Rim, in Europe, and Latin America as well. So I'm on that learning curve, if you will, of trying to acquire as much information and knowledge as I can in order to become the best advocate I can on your behalf, as well as the more than 2.3 million people who call this industry their home, where they go to work every day. Most Americans have little or no idea, in my view, about the importance of this industry or the number of people who work in it or the creative, innovative, imaginative ideas they bring in technology to improve the quality that this industry produces on a daily basis. So when I began this job and when I left the United States Senate after 30 years, I should point out to you I'm a late bloomer in the father business. I have a 6-year-old and 10-year-old daughters. In fact, I was the only guy I knew that got mail from AARP and diaper services, for those of you that follow this, with this head of gray hair. But I turned to my, absolutely true story, I turned to my 6-year-old and I said, in January, I said, what would you like your father to do now that I'm leaving Congress? And she paused for several seconds, this little towhead, and she said, I'd like you to own a zoo and a candy store. And 2 months later, I said, I have fulfilled both of your ambitions, dear, I'll tell you, by taking this job at the MPAA, in a sense. It is both a zoo and a candy store in many ways, as we look at it. So this afternoon, in these brief remarks, I'd like to share with you some thoughts. As a newcomer to this, still on a very steep learning curve on how I can do that job on behalf of all of you in this room, and again, to thank you for the honor of being asked to come by this afternoon during your conference to share some thoughts. As chairman of the MPAA, I've traveled a lot over these last 7 or 8 months. I've been to the Pacific Rim and Europe, all over this country as well, back and forth here many times from the office in Washington, meeting with men and women who make the film and TV business a landmark American industry. And today, I'm here obviously in Los Angeles, arguably the content capital of the world, at least we believe so. Next month, I'll be in Silicon Valley, which you could argue is the global capital of technology in many ways. Two great centers of creativity, a car ride away from each other, the same state, the same country. Two industries, two centers of creativity, two industries drawing on American ingenuity and creativity to deliver unforgettable experiences to our mutual customers. At a time of high unemployment and economic uncertainty, these two epicenters of job creation and economic growth with a common set of interests, I would argue. We have so much in common, these two communities. There is so much that we can accomplish together for our customers and for the millions of Americans and people around the world that we employ. And yet, there are those who would pit our two communities against each other in a manufactured conflict more reminiscent of the Washington, D.C. Beltway chatter that I learned to ignore in my last job as the United States Senator. To listen to some in the tech community, we in the film and TV industry are dinosaurs, they like to say, clinging desperately to a broken business model and stubbornly refusing to evolve. But this criticism, I would argue, ignores a century of innovation in the film and television industry. Time and time again, artists and technicians have worked with innovators and entrepreneurs to embrace new technology, reinvent our business models, and reinvigorate our industry. And yes, there are those in our industry who look towards the future with anxiety instead of the excitement that I think is deserved. They forget that these successes, that they have enjoyed in the past were the result not only of embracing vague notions of new technology, but our commitment to harnessing their potential. They have forgotten about the people who today make a very good living at the intersection of innovation and creativity. We all need to be reminded that our future successes depends on our ability not only to adapt to new developments in the world of technology, but to innovate in our own right. The truth is, Hollywood and Silicon Valley have mutually benefited from their partnership for a long time. And one of the top priorities as the CEO of the MPAA will be to grow and strengthen that partnership in the coming years. The stark reality should be clear. We cannot survive without each other, but together we can give our mutual customers experiences that defy imagination. With the death of Steve Jobs earlier this month, it seems, or it should be, a moment to reflect, in my view, on his incredible successes as an innovator and as an entrepreneur. He liked to follow the philosophy of the great hockey player Wayne Gretzky. Always skate to where the puck is going, not where it is or has been. And if we look back, not just at recent years, as we worked with Steve to bring our content to Apple products, but at the full history of our industry, we see that our own successes have come when we skated to where the puck was going. Today, I'm very proud to join with you to celebrate the long and very successful history of technological innovation in film and television. But since we're talking about technology, I don't want to just look back at what we've achieved or where we've been. I want to share my excitement, if I can, with you about what's next. We cannot be just reactive. We must be proactive if we're going to succeed. A century ago, the motion picture industry was still a nascent idea, struggling to find its footing. The idea of displaying moving pictures for an audience was new and exciting, but the technology making it possible was crude and unreliable in so many ways. So when C.F. Jenkins, the developer of the first motion picture projector in the United States, joined 9 other engineers in Washington, D.C. in 1916 to create a society of motion picture engineers, they had an important job to do. Even as they accepted this mission, Jenkins and his colleagues could not have imagined in their wildest dreams that our storytellers' capacity to imagine would someday be equaled by our engineers' capacity to create and display those very images. And what a distance we have traveled and have come in those years. We haven't done it simply by taking advantage of emerging technology. You and those who make up or come before you, in fact, are the ones who have propelled it forward. From such basics as sound and color to the dramatic explosion of distribution platforms made possible by the internet, we have responded to our customers' needs by using and often developing, in our own right, new technologies to improve our product and to reinvigorate our business. It's no wonder that today's studios have made their marks as much for technological innovation as for storytelling, I would argue. Seeing men and women who work on these masterpieces, you begin to wonder, who are the artists and who are the technologists? And you begin to realize they are one and the same. The result is a dramatic increase in the quality of our products that we offer to consumers all over this world. Thanks in large part to the work of SMPTE, digital cinema standards now allow us to display feature films at quality equal to that of 35mm film release prints. Meanwhile, optical media technology allows us to deliver theater-quality products right into the American home living rooms, with 7.1 channels of high-definition surround sound and images 6 times the resolution of DVDs. But even as we're making great strides in improving the quality of our products, emerging technology is allowing us to reinvent the experience of consuming our content. You don't have to be in the business to know that mobile devices are a game changer. We simply have to walk down any street in America or anywhere in the world for that matter. It's not uncommon to see someone out in public with a smartphone, a tablet, and a laptop all going at the same time. And that's to say nothing of the devices they have working back in their homes. As Steve Jobs might say, we know where the puck is going. Now getting there is what you want to score. How do you get there? And wanting to score is our job. Our customers want more options, as all of us know, and more flexibility in how they can obtain our content, how they can experience our content, and how they can share that experience with their families and friends. Because our customers want to be able to purchase and watch movies and TV shows anywhere, anytime, without having to drive to a brick-and-mortar store, we have made full-length, high-quality versions of our content available to more than 6 online services in the United States alone, over 60 of these services, from our traditional partners in television to gaming systems and online retailers to new ventures devoted entirely to this spacing. And for the many customers who think of even the most modern laptop computer as a little bit outdated, we have worked with mobile phone operators and service providers to develop new distribution systems, offering television streaming and on-demand movies and TV shows on the go. We've made it possible for our customers to choose what screen they prefer to watch our content on. But why should they have to choose between them at all, I would say? This fall, many of our studios and a wide range of technology and consumer electronics firms are rolling out Ultraviolet, a system allowing consumers to purchase a movie once and enjoy it in a multiple of formats and on multiple devices, enabling them to build vast collections of their favorite films, not just on a shelf, but in the so-called cloud. Game consoles, next-generation set-top boxes, and internet-connected TVs are providing more interactivity, more personalization, and better opportunities for consumers to find new content, download it, and share it again with their friends and family with the touch of a single button. Meanwhile, we're pioneering new immersive experiences and take advantage of the fact that 40% of people have at least one other screen going while they're watching a movie. Disney's Tron and Bambi Blu-ray discs work with special apps that synchronize with the movie and play related content. This is how many of our customers want to watch movies today, and the numbers are growing. This is the experience they imagine, rich, immersive, and interactive. And they don't have to imagine it, because this technology is here, now, and it's only going to get better. So don't let anyone ever say again, anywhere else, the false notion that somehow the motion picture and television industry is not innovative, not creative, not on the cutting edge. Those who would suggest this industry is somehow a backward model are not paying attention to what you are doing and your colleagues are doing every single day in this remarkable industry. The partnership between content producers and technologists has unleashed unimaginable storytellers, opened the door to a new wave of exciting experiences for consumers, and helped to keep our industry strong. In economic times marked by bad news and deep uncertainty, we remain in this industry one of the great engines of growth on the planet. Movies and TV matter to our nation and the world's culture, and to the economic security of our nation, I would argue. Remember, we are not just a red carpet industry. We are also a blue-collar industry. Behind the enduring Hollywood image, there are 2.2 million Americans in all 50 states whose jobs depend on the film and television industry. And our successes are shared not only by the well-known actors, producers, and directors, but also by the men and women who build the sets, engineer the sound, that drive the trucks, and do so much more. These millions of Americans share in our success, but they also share in the pain when our industry is threatened, as it is. Content theft is no victimless crime. It is stealing, nothing short of it, just as breaking into a Tiffany's jewelry store is theft. And yet, according to a recent poll, a full 13% of the adult population, 29 million Americans, have downloaded or watched illegal copies of movies or TV shows online. Nearly 1/4 of all internet traffic is copyright infringement. We all pay the price for content theft across industries. Intellectual property theft costs our nation dearly. 373,000 jobs have been lost because of theft in the last few years. $16 billion in earnings, $3 billion in state, local, and federal taxes, and a total of $58 billion in economic output each year, according to the Institute for Policy Innovation. That's why we, the entertainment community, have come together in something called the Creative America, a grassroots coalition of labor unions, guilds, studios, and networks representing millions of Americans in all 50 states whose livelihoods are threatened by content theft. Together, we're fighting to crack down on rogue sites that traffic in stolen content and profit from that theft as well. We need to bring these sites down, and we need companies that work with these sites to stop what they're doing. The online theft industry relies on advertisers, payment processors, internet service providers, and search engines, legitimate businesses that, in my view, debase themselves when they knowingly act as accomplices to digital theft. They are acting as accessories, in my view, to this crime. We need to spread the message of in the digital community and in the entertainment community as well, that these activities hurt working Americans, and we will not tolerate them any longer. Today, I want to tell you that as the head of the MPAA, as the new head of this, I will fight as hard as I possibly can on your behalf to see to it that we bring an end to content theft in this country. But I want to ask you as well today to be part of that effort. It cannot be on the shoulders merely of a CEO of some association. Every person who is adversely affected by this needs to engage in the educational process of why this is wrong and how it endangers hardworking people's jobs and their livelihoods. It must be a collective effort. Those involved in the industry who are knowledgeable about what it means when someone who thinks that no one is hurt by this except some high-paid actor needs to realize that those jobs out there that create these wonderful products are also at risk because of this thievery. If we are to remain a thriving industry, then we must work together to protect our content. And if we are to remain a thriving industry, the film and TV industry must also remain an innovative industry as well. I've spoken in these remarks about Steve Jobs. Steve was from the tech community, I suppose, more than anything else, and yet he was a great friend to the entertainment or the content industry as well. He loved movies and helping to make Pixar an incredible creative factory that it is, and he challenged us to join him in embracing the potential for innovative technology. After his passing, Jim Giannopoulos, my good friend and the co-chair and CEO of Fox, wrote a piece in The Hollywood Reporter about his relationship with Steve Jobs. He and Steve last spoke a few weeks, according to Jim, before Steve passed on. And Jim writes that the legendary technologist said to him the following. Hey, he said, do me a favor, will you? Don't let what happened to the music business happen to yours. Keep coming up with better ways to provide people with your content, end of quote. The fundamental attraction of our industry, a good story, well told, remains timeless in my view, but our continued success depends on our continued commitment to innovation in our business models, to improving our products, and finding new ways to reach our audience. You are an essential piece of that commitment. It cannot be done without those of you gathered in this room today, as you help us to merge the arts and sciences in new and creative ways. I want to tell you today, as new as I am to all of this, I'm deeply excited about this job and the opportunity at this critical time that Dave mentioned earlier, and I believe he's right. This is a period of incredible transition. But unlike years past, we're not going to have the luxury of sort of wrestling with these ideas for 5 or 10 years. That was the case going back when sound came in, when radio came in, when color came in, when television came in. The first reaction was to fight everything. Technology is not our enemy, it's our friend. And this industry needs to embrace it as a friend and to find ways to use it to improve the quality and the content of what we provide to consumers all over the world. I'm excited, as I said, to represent such a fast-moving industry. And I'm proud to work with all of you in the coming weeks and months and years to create the very magic that you produce every single day. And I'm deeply grateful, as I said at the outset of these remarks, to spend some time with you, and I thank you for listening. Thank you all very, very much.